Good morning, everybody. This is Steve with Eat the Hatchet, and it is Friday, October 3rd, and we're going to talk some Blackhawks today. Bear with me, my voice is feels dry. I don't know if it's COVID or what, and I'm also drinking some very underwhelming coffee, and it is kind of throwing me off my game here. And this is actually my second time recording this because the first time I didn't like it. So I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna keep this short, roughly around 15 minutes, and we're gonna start with some Blackhawks news, looking at the past games since we've last talked. And we got 3 preseason games to go through. So got the schedule right here. Last Saturday, the Blackhawks won 4-2 against the St. Louis Blues. Oliver Moore, he scored a really nice breakaway goal during not a line brawl, but there was a big fight, right? So the reason why I want to highlight Moore's goal is because I am not convinced on Oliver Moore yet. He's obviously extremely fast, and yeah, he scored his goal, but I have concerns about his vision. There's been a lot of times in the preseason where he's either made a pass that goes to absolutely nobody, or he doesn't pass when he should. So there are some doubts that I have about Moore. And currently, I think he's just a really fast guy. He's a great skater. But I don't know where he's going to fit exactly yet. Of course, young player, still has a lot of room to grow and all that, but we'll see. For the game against the Minnesota Wild on last Sunday, September 28th, the Blackhawks won 4-1, and Frank Nazar scored a hat trick, which is awesome to see. I know it's only preseason. The Wild weren't icing their actual real lineup. Kirill Kaprizov wasn't even playing, but still, love to see it. Love to get excited for Frank Nazar. Hope he has an excellent season. And I'm a huge Nazar fan. I love him. And then the Blackhawks, they lost their first home preseason game 3-1 to the Detroit Red Wings, and Colton Dach scored the lone Hawk goal. And Dach has been kind of looking good with his physicality, and looks like he'll be a solid bottom 6 player for the Blackhawks, at least this season. Also a young player, but yeah, it's pretty much it for the games. It's preseason, so I try not to dig too much into the weeds of stuff. Players aren't going to be playing at their 100% like Connor Bedard. There are things you want to look for, right? Like Moore, because he's only played a handful of games last year. You do want to see things like his vision and what else he can bring to the table. Where, like I said, players like Bedard and Nazar, you expect them to be dominant, but not playing 100%. I don't know if that makes sense, but they're not going to be going balls to the wall, risk injury in a preseason game. But you want to see Bedard, what he's been doing, where he's producing a decent amount of shot attempts in his preseason games, and that's a concern that I had last year, and that's something that I would like to see him improve on this regular season, right? So, Bedard has obviously worked on his speed, and he's looked fast in these preseason games, which is great. I would expect him to look really fast, and we'll have to wait until the regular season to see, one, how does his speed actually look against in real games that count, and if he's going to be producing a lot of shot attempts, right? I think Bedard's weapon is his shots, and he needs to use it more. Last year, I don't got the numbers in front of me, but it was really disappointing to see that on a nightly basis he wasn't taking those shots. We all know he didn't have a great season last year, but this year it's going to be a thing to watch. And I got my own thoughts. I don't want to get too sidetracked with my thoughts on Connor Bedard. For the record, I think he's going to be a fantastic player. I do have high hopes that he's still our number one center. But yeah, I want to save that for another day because I want to talk about another Blackhawk player, a defenseman, which I guess I can talk about now. We'll save the previews for our 2 preseason games. Let me segue this into good old Kevin Korchinski. So he was sent to Rockford down, I think it was on Thursday. But he's going to be starting the season in Rockford. And he spent pretty much all of last year with Rockford. We all know the story. His first season pro was spent with the Blackhawks. And people think that, he was rushed to the NHL, which is true, right? The Blackhawks didn't really have a choice, but they kind of did. And for those who aren't aware, Kevin Korchinski was in the Canadian Hockey League. And because of his age at the time, 19 years old, and the contract rules, he could play with the Blackhawks. And he could not play with the Rockford IceHogs. So if the Blackhawks felt he was ready for the NHL, they could bring him up. But if they felt like he needed to improve, they couldn't send him down to the AHL because of the conflicting interest in the contract with the Canadian Hockey League. And the Blackhawks felt that Korchinski had nothing to gain from playing in the Canadian Hockey League, the CHL. And which is true. Kevin Korchinski dominated that league. But he was kind of in like a middle area, right? Where I do think going to Rockford would have benefited him for sure. Him being at the NHL at that time wasn't good. And in this preseason, he hasn't really done anything to prove otherwise, right? He didn't look great. And, one, I think that's because of his defensive partners. Like when he was called up to the NHL last year, he played with TJ Brody, and he looked terrible. And then in the preseason, I think his partner was Louis Crevier. And, these defensive partners aren't doing him any favors, right? And Kevin Korchinski, he's got great skating. I think his skating's already above NHL average. And he's got great offensive instinct, in my opinion. On defense, he's not physical. He's not great. So he's got some work to do there, which is why they want to send him to Rockford. But you look at Artem Levshinov, where physically he's clearly, I think, ready for the NHL, but his instincts and his reads might need some work. And Levshinov is pretty much a lock in for the NHL opening night roster. And he's got a partner in Wyatt Kaiser who's developed great chemistry with him. And they were able to find a young partner for Levshinov and use that as an excuse for Levshinov staying up, while Kevin Korchinski, has been paired with these defensemen who don't help him out. So, there is an argument to be made of Kevin Korchinski needing time in Rockford, and should Levshinov stay in the NHL, or does he need another year in Rockford? Those are debatable. I'm not married to my opinion that either player should be in the NHL this season, because I do think both of them should start. But I think with Kevin Korchinski, he was drafted 7th overall in 22, and it just kind of leads me to questions of did Kyle Davidson miss on this draft pick? And it's a little too early to say, just because, one, Korchinski is still young. And I think with how many picks we have, not all of our first-round picks are going to hit, right? But it's not one to worry about or anything like that yet. But it is one where it's kind kind of looking at it right now where it's like, all right, if Korchinski doesn't hit, I'm already kind of critical on Davidson for picking Levshunov over Demidov. And, obviously it's still a little too early for that too. But, like, it's just things that I'm, like, kind of holding on to. And we'll see as things develop, right? But, yeah, that's what I got on that. I wrote something on the blog, too, this week about Korchinski. But, yeah. And then the other Blackhawks news was Vlasic. He was injured, took a cut with a skate blade in a game. I think that was against the Blues or the Wild. I can't remember. But he's going to be back for opening night, so nothing to freak out about. Blackhawks play tonight against the Minnesota Wild at 7 p.m. They're icing the roster that most closely resembles their opening night roster next week on October 7th against the Florida Panthers. And then tomorrow they play again their final preseason game at home, St. Louis Blues, 6 p.m. Central. Probably not a roster that's going to include a lot of NHLers. They're going to be most likely calling Kevin Korchinski up just to play one more game and then sending him back down to Rockford to continue being an AHLer and playing with the TJ Brodies of professional hockey. And that's it for Blackhawks news. NHL news, we got Luke Hughes with the New Jersey Devils, signed 7 years at $9 million. Jackson Lacombe with the Anaheim Ducks, a fantastic young defenseman, signed an 8-year deal. I don't got the financial numbers. NHL.com didn't provide those. And the same thing with this next deal. Florida Panther defenseman Nico Mikkola signed an 8-year deal as well. And the Edmonton Oilers signed a 3-year extension for their head coach, Chris Knobloch. And I am excited to see where the Edmonton Oilers head this year, right? I think Connor McDavid's staying with Edmonton. I don't think he's leaving. But, yeah, that's pretty much it for this. We are just about 12 minutes, so I'll be back here next week with, we'll see, right? Like, if I don't want to do this, I'm going to be honest, this is just for fun, so we'll see. I could be here back on Friday. This is when I'm going to be trying to do them, is on Fridays. And, some quick housekeeping. We got tonight for game recaps. On Tap Sportsnet, one of the writers that we got over there, he's going to be covering the game, so he'll be doing a recap there that you can find at On Tap Sports. I got a preview that's going to be coming out for the Wild game tomorrow. As of right now, I'm doing the preview and the recap, and then you'll get an email for that as well. And then I'm going to be pushing out some just bloggy type articles here, like the Kevin Korchinski piece that I did earlier. You can find that here. And on Tap Sportsnet is more so of my more serious pieces, I guess, where Eat the Hatchet is more of just like my thoughts and me needing to vent. And, we all need to vent sometimes, right? But, yeah, if you want to see any improvements, have any suggestions, please let me know. I'm not taking this too serious, so if you don't like it, it's your loss, I guess. But I'll be back next week. Hopefully, maybe we'll see. Have a great weekend.